Welcome to Refined Resilience. I'm your host, Carrie Hill, and on this podcast, we highlight the small moments that shape our journey toward greatness and remind us that resilience isn't linear. Each episode features stories of perseverance and the little victories that often go unnoticed, illustrating that resilience is about finding strength in everyday life. Well, I am so excited about today's guest, Derek Miner. He's a partner at Build and Bless and at Lemonade Stand, a full-service digital marketing agency, and he is passionate about creating, building, and winning in business. He's actually a 2x Inc. 500 and 5,000 recipient and has been part of many amazing companies, helped to build award-winning cultures from the ground up. He is a passionate speaker, people builder, and enthusiastic business mentor. He's also one of the most kind people that I know. In addition to that, he enjoys cycling, skiing, playing the drums, and basically just hanging out with his family. Hey, Derek.
Hey.
You sound like a cool man. I think I should know you.
Oh, this is great. Thanks, Carrie. Hey, thanks for having me on.
No, thanks for being here. I'm super excited because we're in the Build and Bless studio at Lemonade Stand Marketing. And we are here. And for those of you that aren't familiar with this story, I do want to shine a spotlight for just a second on why Derek and I are even sitting in this space together. I met Derek earlier this year, and I mentioned to him how much I wanted to have a podcast and how big my vision was for what I wanted this to be in terms of giving back to people that helped me in so many difficult times in my life. And I got a phone call a little while ago that said, "We'd like to sponsor your podcast, Carrie, and we'd like for you to shoot it here at the Build and Bless studio. And also, we'd like for you to be an ambassador."
Yeah. Well, we're so lucky to have you.
I am blessed, Derek. I'm deeply blessed and deeply moved by your genuine, authentic kindness. And that is not an exaggeration. You are actually one of the most kind people I know. And so I want to hear about Build and Bless, and I want to give you a platform to talk about this incredible program and why you were inspired to create it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Carrie. You're wonderful and appreciate the light you are in the world and for the world, most importantly. Man, there's a lot that's gone into Build and Bless. And when you think about what do you really want to be known for, and what's something that you can build that ultimately isn't about shining a light on yourself, but shining a light on the good. And I've had the opportunity to work with extraordinary people and in extraordinary businesses and seen and been a part of in some small way incredible companies. And I love what Bill Markline said. He said it best. And he said, culture is how employees' hearts and stomachs feel about Monday morning on Sunday night.
Yes, yes, that's the truth.
and I think about, the opportunities where I've had to work with people where I love Mondays. And the opportunity to love Mondays again. In fact, I'll never forget, I was back in Boston at an MIT course, which was so cool. And I was talking to one of the professors, and he said, "So tell me what you do and tell me what you're the most excited about." And I said, "Really, I want to help people love Mondays again." And an opportunity to be excited about their work and about projects. And that's really how you show up to give your best self, but to empower other people to do the same. And I don't know that there's been a single point, but just working with incredible people throughout my life that have inspired me. And frankly, being totally spoiled rotten, working with incredible people. And I want in some small way to have them feel the way that I felt.
I love that. What has been the most memorable, incredible person that you would say has had the biggest impact on your life?
Wow. Just one person, I'd probably say my mom.
Well, I love that answer. So shout out to all the moms.
No, one of the really unique things, every one of my siblings had the opportunity to work with my mom and at different companies. And that just doesn't happen very often. Yeah. And I remember when we were growing at a company called Orange Soda. And for anyone who's listening from Orange Soda, so grateful for you. But we were hiring and we were growing really fast. And my mother had an incredible track record in human resources. And I said, "Mom, we need your help. We are building and adding more team members and we're going to need you. She says, okay, great. I'll come and help you for a little bit. But then, I'm pretty much retired. So I'll help you from a distance.
Amazing.
And she jumped in and she worked with us for almost 4 years.
Wow.
And one of the greatest compliments, and we set expectations early on. We're like, everything is very professional here. And I think both endearing and how we tried to show up for each other and for our team.
Yeah.
One of our team members said they'd done an internship and they were moving out. They're like, hey, can I ask you a question? I hope this is okay. You and Tamara have the same last name. Are you related?
Wow.
And I said, Tamara's my mom.
Wow.
But as those that
they didn't know.
Yeah, everyone that's had the opportunity to work with her knows that she was literally the glue. And we didn't call it human resources. We called it people services.
Yeah.
Because she says, we're in the business of serving people. And so as I think about her, naturally I think about, my father as well, who taught me how to work and how to be resilient. He was a cowboy and he was tough. And so, and I literally could go down the list of everyone that's impacted my life. But I'd say like Abraham Lincoln, all that I am and hope to be, I owe to my angel mother.
I love that so much, Derek. And what a cool thing to see a different side of your mom. Like to know that she has this incredible career. But I think for so many working moms, their kids don't really get to see that side of them being proactive and productive in a completely different space. And so what was that experience like from you? What did you learn from her as a professional woman?
To show up for people where they are. She was always so kind and so thoughtful, and she would ask and listen. And she's one of the best listeners, I think, ever. And one of the best cheerleaders.
Yeah.
I think I'd see people walk into her office in kind of a professional setting, with whatever may have been troubling them, and they'd walk out with a smile on their face. And it would usually always end with a hug.
I love that
and
so
we'd say it in the most HR appropriate type interaction.
Yeah.
But she had that impact where she literally should light up a room wherever she'd go. And when people would come in, she'd always leave them better than she found them.
So the intersection of her personally and professionally was pretty intertwined.
Yeah.
She showed up in business the same way she shows up in her life.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that. I think I see that in you as well, in the culture that you're trying to create here and that you have created here at Lemonade Stand. I feel it's very reflective of you, of who you are personally. And we were just talking about that before we went on, that it's always an amazing experience to be able to advocate for parts of yourself, like things that are authentically a part of who you are. And I think it sounds like that kindness gene, you were able to inherit that from your mom. And now you've turned that into an actual advocacy platform for kindness. And so I want to dive into that a little bit. What sparked this idea? And for listeners, just let us know, what is Build and Bless?
Well, we like to say Build and Bless is a fintech platform that builds culture and community and disrupts traditional corporate giving. Corporate giving for so long has been so broken. So many people want to do good and do what is right and make an impact, right? I think there's metrics that are important in business, but I think really people want more money, more time, and more impact. And so we were trying to figure out how we could do that. And rather than standing in front of a big check at the end of the year and saying, man, look at how great this is. We love this cause. We're giving it to someone. And then we really don't see the impact.
Yeah.
And so the genesis of all this really happened during COVID and during the pandemic, when the majority of our team is remote. In fact, we're still 100% remote. We have team members in 12 other states. And we wanted to have them feel a part of what we were doing. And by us donating something, maybe here in Utah or somewhere else in one of the other states that we do business in, is that impactful to our team? And we really wanted to do something that was meaningful. So we had this idea, what if we gave, instead of that big donation, what if we gave that money to our team and empowered them to donate to causes and things that they care about? And we started collecting stories. And every week we'd report on these stories. and they were so inspiring. And what happened is we saw not only new ideas to reach out and to help other people, but our team's hearts and minds were changing. And we saw how they were showing up for each other and for their clients and in their community, story after story after story, which we have a collection of hundreds of them, where I'm literally inspired every single week of the good that our team does. So we started collecting all these, spreadsheets and things. And we said, why don't we build a platform and start collecting this for stories? Stories that we're telling, stories that our team is inspiring us to go and to try to do good. And we were thinking about, what are we building? Well, we build websites, we build marketing campaigns, but really we're about building people.
People, yeah.
And then when we have the opportunity to be built up by someone else, or it gives us the opportunity to go and do good.
Yeah.
And so that was really kind of the genesis of the platform. And it was a collective effort of our entire team here. And it's so fun when you have a hypothesis or an idea that you think will work really well, and then it starts to go really well.
Yeah.
And then our clients start asking us, like, how are you remembering these important dates in my life? We're just your client. And instead of just a customer experience, we wanted to provide an incredible, rather than a transaction, something that was more transformational, and creating hospitality around our engagement and genuinely knowing and understanding what matters to our clients.
I love that word, hospitality, creating hospitality for your clients. That's such a warm feeling, when you think about that. And I feel like you built the whole platform around that, actually, hospitality.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. I want to know, Derek, what kindness has been shown to you in your life? This is an incredible platform for businesses to use. It also has this incredible human-centric element for impact. And that was another question I wanted to ask is, what is impact for you? I think impact for businesses, if we don't understand what kind of impact we really want to see, we don't really know what to bring in or what to get rid of, right? Differently. And so yeah, two things. One is, what kindness has been shown to you that has helped you become a better human, more resilient human? And then how do you define impact?
Wow. That's a great question. Maybe I'll start with that. I love Claude Silver, who's the Chief Heart Officer at VaynerMedia. I had the opportunity to hear her speak in Park City, and she put on a slide, and I've thought about it, I'd probably say every day since then. And it said, in the past, jobs were about muscle, and today you need brains, and tomorrow it'll be about heart. And then she said, but tomorrow is here.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
And so when you think about real, true impact, and it's lasting, it's you can train and you can teach, but are people's hearts and minds changing? And how are they showing up as a better person for each other and for the community? Because I think everyone's like, oh, we got this big world-changing ideas that are so awesome. But I think it really starts in a neighborhood and in a community. What great things are you doing there, and how are you showing up outside of yourself? And I think it's one of the greatest and the most interesting dichotomies too in life is the degree to which we think about others, the happier we are.
Yes.
Versus everything is about what is in it for me?
Yeah.
What can I get for me? And it seems that there's just never enough. But when we have the opportunity to get outside of ourselves and think about somebody else, then all of a sudden we see all that we have been given by those that are around us. And I think that's truly, how do you measure impact? Well, by hearts and minds that have been changed to be better. Who has shown kindness to me? I think about our incredible team. And I think there's kindnesses that are shown to me every single day. And that was one of the other things that we tried to encapsulate in this platform. Where our team is working remote, we don't get to see them, but we get to see how they're showing up for our team.
Yeah. And
daily, if not hourly, we get to see these stories of our team showing up for other people. But I'll never forget, it was 14 months ago, and my father took a turn for the worse. And I wanted to be there with him. And we weren't sure how long it was going to be. From early indications, we didn't know how much time we were going to have with him. And so I reached out to several of my team members and I said, hey, I'm probably not going to make this meeting today. Followed by, I may not make the meeting tomorrow or the next day. With responses back from my team that said, hey, Derek, we've got you. Take as much time as you need. Don't worry about anything. We've got it. In fact, how can I help? And when you have one person who does that for you, it's extraordinary. But as I think about our entire team and how they showed up for me, I spent that entire last week with him before he passed away. And those are moments and hours that I could never have gotten back. And in fact, I had a business trip scheduled and I canceled everything and the team just showed up. And so, I mean, I think about that and then the most recent kindness of learning that one of my dear friends passed away and our team sends me a blanket. And I'm like, that's just what they do. It's the lemonade stand way of how we show up for each other, because outside of everything in the world becoming so kind of AI-ized,
right? Yeah.
and so mechanical and robotic in a lot of ways, I think the human element and how we show up for each other is so important.
Yeah, Derek, I think you see all over, it's everywhere, social media, news, it's all over, right? The world is turning into an AI engine. And yes, of course, that's a reality and companies and people will figure out how to operate in that space. But we're already so fractured, I think, as a society. And we have these little communities of people that are just trying to hang on to some humanness and that energy of an act of kindness is irreplaceable. There's no way that you can take an AI technology and make that and infuse the human experience into that feeling because it's so nuanced, right?
Yeah.
And I love, Derek, that your team has taken care of you. You are seeing the reflection of your efforts within your team, and they're magnifying that and they're reflecting it back to you. And so I think that speaks volumes about leadership, your leadership style, and how people can actually lead to transform hearts within their company. I mean, to have a whole company just say, hey, we got you covered, I mean, can you imagine an Adobe, I mean, that's a mass, that's even if it's just team-based, that is just such a huge, beautiful gift that you've given the world, the freedom and the privilege and the permission to operate differently in business.
Yeah.
And I love that. So, I want to talk for a second, if we can just go, I want to first recognize the loss that you went through of your dad. That's, I feel that in my heart for you. I lost my sister when she was 18 in a car accident. And it feels always, it doesn't matter what it is, that you just joined a club that you never really wanted to be a part of, right.
Yeah.
So because we're focused on resilience and that's the primary topic, the thread that weaves through these interviews, I want to just sit there for a minute and ask you, how has that experience been for you in grief? How have you been able to recenter and find resilience at different points throughout this last year and a half?
I think I'm still trying, right? And I think when there's setbacks and you fall down, it's learning to step up and then step forward. In fact, I'll never forget an experience I had where I was on actually a horseback ride with my dad. Grew up with horses, and the whole law of the farm and the harvest and taking care of animals is an extraordinary experience. But when you're training a horse, that's a different experience. And I remember we were riding in the foothills of Provo, and we were in a really narrow space, and something started bothering this horse, and he started jumping. And like crow hopping. I'm like, okay, I need to get off of him and let him just figure it out for a second. So I went to dismount and jump off, and where we were on the trail, it was washed out. And so when I thought I had cleared and was on the side, he'd moved and my foot got hooked in the stirrup and went right underneath him.
Oh my gosh.
And the horse started stepping all over. He was panicked because I was underneath him. And all I remember is holding my leg and watching all of his weight just go on my leg and holding my leg. And then he pivoted his hoof and caught me in the face and just knocked me back. And as I'm laying there trying to figure out how to get out of the way, I kind of crawled off to the side. My dad had already jumped off his horse and he was back there helping. And I remember just sitting there like, okay, I'm still alive. But I've got blood all over me, and we get all cleaned up, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to make it off the mountain. We're probably 5.5, 6 miles back to our barn.
Yeah.
And after I'd kind of come to and I'd cleaned up, and my dad said, get back on. We've got to ride back. You're not going to ride this horse. I will. But he says, I need you to get back on and you can ride my horse down. And Carrie, I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I didn't want to get on that horse. I was done. I was like, this is,
terrified,
but I did.
beat up, tired.
But I did. And I got back on and we rode back to the barn. My dad didn't say anything because I was literally in so much pain. In fact, I've still got a cool scar on the side of my face from the horseshoe nail that was through the hoof that got me.
Oh my goodness.
But when we got back to the barn, he said, Derek, I'm really proud of you for getting back on and riding again. And man, when you lose someone like that, you got to get back on and keep riding, right? Crap happens to every single one of us. But it's what you do the next day, the next hour, the next minute that matters the most, right? When we don't want to get back on, we got to get back on.
I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to know what getting back on the horse looks like for you. Like when you're really feeling it, right? We all have those days. We all have moments. We have experiences that set us back and they make us rethink our life. Pretty significant things sometimes that put us in that position. And so, when you're down, it's when you're in that space and all you can see is the tiny little dot of light, it's really hard to go toward the light when it's so tiny. So for you, Derek, what does that look like for you? What habits or practices have you put in place for yourself that allow you to authentically get up and get back on the horse toward the light?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that motivate me, but there are days that it's really hard, So what does it take to get back on the horse? I don't know. I don't know that I have an ideal answer other than when hard things strike, the actions that you take, even if it's a really small step, they matter. And the other thing that I've done is surrounded myself with other people who inspire me, that I can reach out to and who can give me kind of a sanity check as to where I'm at.
That's so important. That community is so important. That support network. Who do you go to? Who do you talk to when you're in that moment? Who's your community?
Well, I think I told you I went to lunch yesterday with my mom. She's the best. Yeah. She's always so encouraging and telling me, you've got this. But I'd say I can think of every one of our team members and how they show up for me and how I reach out to them. Obviously, one of the greatest stories is when I was connected with Greg Trimble, who's at the core just so good and so kind. And I can talk to him about anything, and having conversations with him has been awesome. And to have a business partner like that, I'd say the same about any one of our executive team members, right? But I remember when Greg and I first got connected, and he showed up at my house with a book that he'd written.
Wow.
And he said, hey, if you want to know what's in my heart, this is before I even joined. If you want to know what's in my heart, I actually still have the handwritten letter from him. He said, if you want to know what's in my heart, read this book. And when I read it, I was so inspired by him and the kind of person, when you have those kind of people in your life, or even if you don't, be that kind of person for someone else. And how you can show up for them and make a difference and make an impact in their life.
Yeah. And I think by being that person, it's again, shining the flashlight on others. It takes you out of your space, your head, your struggles, right? And it puts you in a position to be more empathetic towards other people. And I think service, obviously, we're big on service in Utah. I mean, Utah is actually one of the top ranked states for philanthropy. Our hearts are good in this state, and we want to work towards that and help other people. And so I think adopting that into our personal lives, right? And bringing that down to a micro level in terms of who we serve and that community around us, where can we have the immediate impact? And I know that you are a great dad. And I would love to hear how you build and bless your family. How do you build with resilience, and how has it blessed your family?
Oh, wow. Well, how much time do we have?
Yeah, let's go.
I think being a dad, being a husband, being a father is one of the greatest opportunities. And I like to think about it as excruciating joy, in a lot of ways, because we fall short in so many ways. But the capacity to love, I'll never forget talking to one of my friends, Kyle, if you're listening, always an inspiration to me. But we've been friends since elementary school and still stay in touch. In fact, I have a call with him this afternoon.
That's awesome.
But he said before we had our oldest, he had just had a baby that was born premature. And I saw how he loved and how he showed up. And I said, I want to be that kind of dad, right? I also had a great example, and I had friends who had great dads. But I'll never forget a story that he told me. He said, you wait. And this was right after my oldest son was born. He said, you just wait until you pull in the driveway, because his daughter now is at the stage where you pull in or go to open the door and you can hear the footsteps just barreling towards the door. And then you open the door and you can see that beautiful little human just so excited to see you and wrap your arms around it. He says, you think you've known how to love or the ability to love, but your heart will grow. And I've never forgotten that story. And now when I have that opportunity, now I've got teenagers that come home, I'm like, hey guys, what's up? They're like, hey dad. And then my younger kids are like, what's up, dad? You know? But I think that a true measure of success in what I've tried to do is I want my kids to hang out with me when I'm old. Because I love being with them now. And I love spending time with them. And that's one of the things in trying to build resilience amongst them. Yes, they're involved in sports, but they're involved in sports to learn how to do hard things and to practice when they don't want to. Yeah. And to be better than they were the day before. And one of the things that I think has made the biggest impact for me, and I hope for them, is, well, ultimately there's a few things, is to love their mom, right? Yeah. And to show them how much I love and I care about her, I think is the greatest example you can set for your kids. Man. But the other thing is I've been very intentional from the very beginning of trying to be 100% present with all of them, and to carve out dates. And for my sons, they're probably like, dates? Like, what is that? They're like, let's go ride, or let's go ski, or let's go do something.
You carve out time.
But I carve out time. Dates with my daughter. In fact, it was so fun. I took my little girl to Happy Sumo, and just the two of us showed up.
I love that.
Here we are, just across the table from each other. And she's like, Dad, I love these noodles. It was the best.
So great. That's great.
But I try to find a time every single month where it's just one-on-one with each of them. And usually it's like we can go do whatever they want. And that's made a huge impact in, I think, hopefully in their lives, but also in mine. And one of the things that people say, like, well, aren't they, yes, they're busy doing other things, but none of my kids are on social media. And that's been a real gift, I think, for them to experience life off the screen.
Is that a family rule, or have they just decided for themselves not to be on social media? Yeah,
great question. Some of them are like, hey, can we do this? And we said it's your choice. But they really have become so good at doing so many different things that they're like, I don't have time for that.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's what it's been great. And I've told them, I said, hey, look, you can look at all these cool experiences these people are doing, or why don't we go have some cool experiences and go do something awesome like this, which is what we've tried to do. Now, are we great examples and perfect examples? No, but I've just seen what it's done for my oldest kids, and the blessing that I think it's been in their lives to not have and see things that they may or may not be missing out on, but to go and make their own memories and make their own friends and be present with their friends as well.
And a conscious choice. What a gift to be able to have to teach your kids critical thinking skills so that they can actually decide for themselves if it's healthy or not. I think that's, I know all my kids are in social media. They hate it when I post, like, Mom, oh my gosh, But, as we've gotten older, as the kids have gotten older, because of those elements of being present with them and building that relationship of trust with them from, birth on, now the messages are, hey, Mom, I saw your post. I really love it.
It's awesome.
Go get them, know? And so I love, there's so many different ways to build that relationship with your kids. And so I love that you've taken time, Derek, to really be present. And as a single mom, I can say how grateful I am to you for making that effort for your family, because you are raising men to grow up and to have that respect and presence with their own children. And that is priceless.
Yeah.
So I just want to sit in that space for a minute and say thank you on behalf of all single moms, who are raising boys, raising men. We need strong male figures in society to be able to aid in that process and to really showcase what that warrior vibe looks like. I mean, I'm Xena, warrior princess, but I don't have, I need we need Herculean people, icons to look up to, and so I love that you're doing that work. I know you're actively engaged also in the community through your faith. And I know that you have a presence with other men, other young men in your community. And so how do you lead them? Not being directly their dad, but just being an influencer in their life. What do you do to show them how to be men?
Man, I hope that I'm a great influence to them. But I played in a band once upon a time, and we wrote a song called Actions Speak Louder Than Words.
Nice.
And I think that's the case, right? A lot of times they may pick up on one or two words of something that you're sharing with them, but I think they clue into, is that consistent with who I see? And how they show up, right? And so that's really what I've tried to be, as an example with several of the young men whom I hopefully have had an impact on, that are now, serving missions. Before that, offering thoughts and even just stopping by and with something, or a drink, and saying, hey, because it's hard, when a lot of these, especially with the pandemic and some of these challenges, people are told to stay away from each other and to social distance. And now it's like, all right, come back together.
Right.
And how do we show up, for each other? And so I think that's one of the things that I've tried to do, to not just be a good example to my kids, but also to some of those, but really they're the examples too, for me. I just see that the challenges that they're facing are things that we could have never anticipated, and how they're doing. And frankly, I'd say they're doing a lot better than they think they are.
Yes.
Right. In navigating all this, and, congratulate yourself for navigating through these challenges and continuing to navigate through that. In fact, I'll never forget when my son, who's serving in Argentina right now, he was in an area, just developed incredible friendships, and he actually had to create his first Facebook account when he was going there. So
and he's serving
an
LDS mission.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And he's like, can you help me set this up? I've never had one before. And so
he's like, Facebook's way old.
Yeah. And he's now in this area, and he's getting ready to leave, has some amazing relationships. Right. And one of the people there, like, hey, we want to see everything about your past and what you've done and all this stuff. He's like, I don't have a record of it. They're like, what?
Yeah.
But they were able to see through his example how he showed up and was present for them.
Yeah.
I think in a really meaningful way. And so I hope that is an example of when we're so connected and we're, so tethered to so many things with technology, which are awesome and can help us in a lot of ways, being present and being there. It's really interesting too, just when you're with someone and they don't have their phone, what you can do. But when someone picks up their phone, all of a sudden you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
They have something else that's on their mind.
That's right.
Yeah. But, and so that's just what I've tried to do in any sort of interaction that way, is to try to be fully present.
Yeah. You're really good at that. And even reaching out to my boys with just a positive message was just so beautiful. And I know they appreciated that too, Derek. So I know the people in your community, the the young men in your community are appreciating that. And I really resonate with that actions speak louder than words always, because I think that is a problem that we have right now. And social media is a huge part of that. See my words, see my words, see my words, right? Hear my words. And then we go away and we don't really know what's going on in the backdrop for that person. And I think that's why we're so disappointed when we see people that we respected on social media turn into complete creepy, criminals. It's like, what? Like, it doesn't match, right? So I really appreciate the fact that that's something that you're building not only into your family, but also into your culture. And I will say, for me, my dad carved out those dates and those times for us as well. And it does make an impact. It does build that trust. And I think as a leader, as a dad, as a friend, it doesn't matter where you are. If you can put your phone down and you can make that time and that effort, you will build someone up just by being present with them, because they feel important enough that you're putting other things aside to be with them. And inevitably both people are blessed by that, so
I think these moments matter too so much, and we don't get them back.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be interesting to compare screen time versus in-person time with people who matter the most to you?
Yes.
What would that metric look like?
Yeah.
And these moments are also so fleeting. And I think that is very poignant, especially when you lose someone that you're so close to. And to live and to have, because I think there's two things we always say, right? I'm glad I did, or I wish I would have.
I wish I would have, yeah.
Right? And there's a lot where I say, man, I wish I would have done that. But I think there's a lot more where I'm like, I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like your family culture was very present as well. Distracted, busy, having, living life, but also when those moments mattered, they were there for you.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I think too, when we talk about resilience in social media, there's a lot of things that we can use as distractions to not have to deal with what we're feeling or experiencing. And social media is one of those things. We can just get lost in that space and just go down that rabbit hole, and we don't have to actually deal with anything that we're feeling. So I really love that you're teaching, I should say, your employees to focus more on being present and to take that action. And it'd be interesting to know what kind of social media decrease they've experienced by being more present in their community and their life. And so what kind of responses have you had from your team members or just from other companies that are starting to adopt this Build and Bless platform?
Well, there are incredible stories. And I'm trying to think of one or two that I could share that would provide the most impact. But what's so fun is to have a hypothesis or an idea that this will work outside of what we've just built. And then when we see other companies starting to do this and have these kinds of experiences in ways that they never thought possible, is so extraordinary. One of my favorite was the CFO. He was tough. He's like, wait a second. He says, you're telling me I'm going to give money to my team to go spend on other people and other causes.
Right.
And we're going to grow as a part of this. Show me the ROI on that.
Yeah.
And so we had a whole conversation with him on, hey, look, I think there's 3 important business metrics, right? People, again, they want more money, they want more time, and they want impact. Those are really important things. And, we said, hey, we're ready to launch this. And we started telling them this is kind of the criteria for preparing to launch. And they said, we're not ready yet.
Yeah.
And what do you mean? Well, they said, we've asked a few of our team members, what are our core values and what does this mean? And a lot of them couldn't answer. And so it starts there with, who are you and what are you trying to do and what is the impact? But one of the coolest things when they were ready, they'd gone through this whole exercise, would help navigate them through this. We were at our launch and kickoff with them. And this CFO raised his hand. He said, this has totally changed the way that I've thought about things. Let me share an experience. And he said he lives almost 100 miles away from where his place of employment is. And so he was at the tire store fixing one of his tires and just waiting there. And another customer comes in and out on the phone. He gets called up. He's like, hey, what's going on with that other customer? And they're like, they need a new tire and trying to figure out how to pay for it. And he just paused and he said, because of this experience, seeing someone else, he's like, I wouldn't have even noticed that person likely before.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I want to pay for it. And he said, the manager's face just went blank. He's like, do you know her?
Yeah.
Do you know who this is?
Right.
No, I don't know who it is. I just want to do it. And he said,
the shock of nice things, of good, kind things.
And then the manager said, well, we can actually do better too. And he discounted the price.
Oh, that's amazing.
So both of them had this experience right together to go and do good. And he says, I never would have even thought that way. But he said this whole mindset and idea around being more outward minded in a very inward minded world in which we live changed him and changed his heart. And what I've seen, and I can't take any credit for it, but it's when you give an opportunity for your team to do their best work, to feel safe, to let them know how they're doing, and give them opportunities to show up for each other, to be able just to watch and observe and then be inspired to be better like they're being is absolutely incredible. Literally before I came onto the podcast, I was looking at the feed on our Build Then Bless feed. One of our team members recognized one of our managers and said, thanks for being the best, with exclamation points. That was it. Her entire team below. She really is the best. She is the best. Wow. We're so grateful to have you as the leader. Right. And she is. And this is what's so inspiring to me, to be able to empower your team, to let them go do good, and then watch the good that comes as a result of it.
Well, so another story that you shared with me on top of that is the kid who you shared a message with, and he printed it off and put it on his desk. Right. And, I was talking to Todd Sylvester on his podcast about just putting your arm around someone and letting them know that you believe in them, that they are worth being cared for, and that they're important to you. And that was that kid's moment, and that CFO's moment too, right? Like, or CEO realizing I am of value, therefore this person is of value, and therefore I love this person. And so for you to be able to take something that's innately yours, Derek, when you told me about Build Then Bless, I was so excited, beaming with excitement, because this is such a beautiful, good, it's just inherently good, this idea of perpetuating kindness in the world organically and getting people to tap into that. It's already in them.
That's right.
It's already
That's
there.
what I was just going to say. There are so many companies that are doing so much good, right? And it's already there. And you see the incredible stickers, bumper stickers, do good, go, But this gives them the opportunity to go and do that. And act on it and be inspired by other people to go and do it.
That's right.
There was one in the community, because it's so cool seeing these other companies now start to share and post. I paid for the person's coffee behind me. And what that does, and it's like, wait, that's a great idea. Just small acts like this, but the ripple effect that it can have. And we live, and I think life is created from these moments, right?
Absolutely.
Incredible moments where you feel this sense of, oh my gosh, that was what you just did for me made an impact. And I can't believe what you just did that. But there's also these moments that are fleeting that you're trying to, let's say, just squeeze everything you can out of these little micro moments and these micro interactions to make them last. And then there are these moments where you're not in a great place, and we have to reflect on the times and the experiences where we did feel like that, to help us in some small way get up and go. I love,
to my earlier question to you about what does Derek do to get back on the horse when you're feeling like maybe you can't? I think that for me is something so pivotal, to have those kindnesses extended to me at some point that really did change the trajectory of my life. Whether that just was a text that was like, hey, I believe in you. You got this. You're amazing. Thank you so much for that. Or whether it's an actual act toward me of kindness. But I have reflected on those moments frequently, and they're not the huge on-stage resilient moments. They are built in these tiny little micro moments where you have an opportunity for someone to build you. And I think another beautiful part of your platform is that it also allows people to receive that gift. And together, giving and receiving, you build each other.
That's right.
And you build resilience like that over time with your community, and so I just appreciate you so much taking the initiative to take something that is, I think, genuinely people want to be a part of. They want to be more kind, and showing them how to do that. It's such a beautiful thing. And it just speaks to who you are and how your parents raised you as well, and how you're raising your kids. You're going to pass this legacy on to your kids. What an incredible, and everybody that you work with will pass that on to their children.
Yeah. That's the coolest thing is one of our team members actually said that when they had an opportunity to help or bless somebody. And she said, I think it's really cool that we're instilling this in our kids where they see these opportunities to do good.
Yeah. We need it.
Yeah.
We need it.
We need each other.
We need each other. Yeah. We need each other to be helping each other build. There's enough in the world that will tear us down all by itself, right? And what we can do is take the small moments that we have available and spend them by helping everybody, all of us grow.
And build.
Yeah, and build. I love it. Derek, thank you so much for this, for just being here, for this conversation, and for being who you are. You're a phenomenal person. And I want to let everybody know where they can find more information out about Lemonade Stand and Build and Bless.
Yeah, lemonadestand.org.
Okay.
And buildthenbless.com.
Okay. And right now, the floor is open for people to come and be part of this incredible experience. And so if you're looking for a cultural shift in your company, I would highly suggest that you take a look at Build and Bless and start integrating more kindness into your culture. Derek, thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Carrie.
awesome.
You are too.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Refined Resilience. We hope you found inspiration in the stories shared and the small moments that remind us all of our strength. Remember, resilience is built not just in the big challenges we face, but in the everyday experiences that shape who we are. A special thanks to our sponsor, Build and Bless, for making Refined Resilience possible. Until next time, remember, it's the small moments of resilience that make us great.